am I this way because I think about it all the time? Or do I think about it all the time because I'm this way?
Yeah. Or, like if I told myself, I'm only this way because my brain keeps telling me this, but in reality, if you went out and tried to do the opposite and said, no, I'm just going to live like I did before, then you would just crash and burn like you did before.
Just about to go get up and light a candle, and then it was like, Lauren's in the waiting room.
Here I am.
Why are you only coming out of one of my headphone ears? Are my headphones broken?
Oh no.
Oh, is it an omnidirectional microphone?
It's the one you had me buy.
Your microphone's actually probably better than mine, because mine was $15 when Gary died. I had to buy a replacement in a jiffy.
Oh.
And so, I mean, we have a podcast fund. I don't know why I don't just buy a nicer one, but like, there's no complaints.
Yeah, you let me buy another one. I mean, I thought that I had none.
Listen, I'm the kind of person who will use something as long as earthly possible.
No.
Earthly possible? Humanly possible?
I am the same way. Even though I think this new microphone is better than my old one, when I found my old stuff, I was like, I didn't need to get a new thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think everyone should live as sustainably as possible. Anyway, I buy most of my stuff secondhand. Hi.
Hi.
Hello, friends.
Hello, friends.
Oh, wait, I don't have a tagline.
Oh, I didn't either, so I was hoping you did.
Hi.
Sorry.
Okay, let me think about it for a second. Welcome to Pickles and Vodka, the mental health podcast, where I don't know.
That's actually a tagline. The mental health podcast where I don't know.
I mean, neither of us know anything, really.
No, I told Christina, I have a topic, ?
By the way, yeah, I'm one of your co-hosts, Christina.
I'm the other unprepared one, Lauren.
And Lauren has chosen a lovely topic, ?
Yes.
For us today. But first, Lauren.
Yes.
Where are you at?
I knew this question was coming too, and I was like, I don't know what I'm going to say.
I mean, I could go first if you want.
Yeah.
Because I have too much to say.
Why don't you do that?
Okay, So,
Christina, where are you at?
I'm almost afraid to say.
Uh-oh.
Well, the good news is I'm feeling pretty good today.
Okay.
I was able to sleep in. I went and picked up my meds from CVS. I journaled. I cleaned the whole house. And then I cooked a bunch of food and delivered some to my friends.
Oh.
And I played piano.
I've considered that a lot of days, and I probably should, but I never actually do it.
Okay, here's the secret. And this applies to anyone who is trying to incorporate a new habit into their life.
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes at a time. Like, if that's all you can do is 5 minutes,
yeah,
that is all you need. Like, that's honestly how I play the piano now. Like, especially because I have ADHD,
mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to devote like even an hour on the podcast sometimes is too much.
Yeah. Sorry if I was distracted for a minute.
I didn't notice because I can't see you because we're not doing video this week.
Yeah, I just meant like I might not have listened very well to the very end of what you were saying.
Oh, that happens to me all the time. And sometimes I think you can tell.
But so I'm going to give way too much backstory for this. In my last apartment, the lights in my fan were weird, or on all my like ceiling fans were weird. That was apparently just a thing. And as I've learned, like this style of fan, like other people in different apartment complexes and things have said the same thing, where like the lights would randomly turn on. The fan would randomly turn off. There was so many times at night, especially, like in the summer when I want the fan running all night, and it'd be like 3 a.m. and then suddenly it's like, good morning. I was like, fuck, the lights came on.
Holy shit, that's crazy because I watched a horror movie last night called Something Dark and Wicked, and it's about demon possession. Spoiler alert, I suppose. But anyway, one of the reasons that they can tell the devil is near is because the lights come on randomly in the middle of the night.
Oh, crap. Because they don't have the same sort of thing here. But there was one night, like a week or two ago, where in my bedroom, I was just like sitting in bed reading. and the light would flash off, but then it would flash back on. Because first it flashed off and I was like, fuck, not again. And then it came back on. So all this to say, I'm sitting here and the lights just went off in the room, and this room doesn't have a ceiling fan. It just has a light. And so I was just like, what the hell? And then I look over and see that next to the light switch, I have like some shelving unit, and Meatball had crawled on top of it and turned the lights off.
Oh my God. I had this whole bit I was going to do. Like, well, Lauren, I have a surprise guest. It's the devil.
Yay!
But it's Meatball.
Which sometimes I think is kind of the same.
Black cat energy.
Yes.
Black cats are the best, honestly. They're not quite as crazy as orange cats. We cannot go on a cat tangent.
No. My last black cat was lovely. I thought he was the best cat ever, and so I agreed with black cats are the best, but this current one is insane. Anyway, back to where you at.
I don't even remember what I was talking about. Oh, I'm in a good mood because I did all that shit. Mm-hmm. But honestly, my mental health has continued slipping. I don't know how much I talked about it before, but it was starting to slip last week. Mm-hmm. And my mom asked me, what do you mean by your mental health is slipping? And I think that's an interesting thing we could talk about because it's different for everyone, but I feel like everyone has those things that when they start happening, you know, oh shit, I'm in for it. So for me, it was my sleep was getting worse. I was sleeping later and later in the day, and I never do that.
Yeah, that's a big thing I noticed too. I agree with that one.
Yeah. Another one was not eating as much, using substances a little more heavily, and there was another one. I don't remember. Canceling plans. Oh, yeah. And isolating. In the last week since we recorded, I have barely seen anybody. And I also worked last weekend. So we recorded, we were trying to do video, it failed. And I was also working, and my shifts on the weekends are 10 to 6, which is really brutal because it's like the whole day.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't really eat at work, and I don't know.
I'm kind of the same way at work. I know.
Don't do what we do, y'all. Like, please. In fact, today I cooked, I meal prepped, and so I have a meal to take to work tomorrow. I'm not going to repeat last weekend because what I was gearing up towards saying is that because of all those things I was doing, my mood just plummeted. Like, I became really depressed. Suicidal ideation, just like finding it difficult to text people or, let alone talk to people. Talking was hard, writing is hard. And I kind of treated it like I was sick. Yeah. Because that was the only thing I could do. I literally was supposed to meet up with a friend, Rachel. Actually, she was on the podcast, one of the first 10 episodes. Okay. I can't remember. But she was on the podcast in 2018, someone I used to know from Christian camp. Oh, wow. Christian military camp. She was working in a psych ward for that episode. I don't know if she still does. Anyway, I had to cancel. She and her family were in Virginia, and we were going to meet up, and I canceled because I told her I was sick. And it's true. Right. Yeah. I was sick. Right. And all I did was just lay around in my apartment for 4 days straight. And it kind of helped. Okay. Because I feel like I'm starting to climb out of it. One of the things that has helped, besides, eating, has been... Weird how that helps. I know. Giving myself little moments of joy. Like, I went roller skating the other night, even though I didn't feel like it. And I might have still taken drugs beforehand, but it helped. And listening to music that makes me happy. Vivaldi has been like my happy music. I gave myself tattoos the other night. Oh yeah, I finally saw a picture. Yeah, I will post them to the Instagram. But it was so cathartic and just fun. Like, I think by treating myself as a sick person, that also helped absolve some of the shame that I normally feel when I lay around and don't do anything. Because I'm like, oh no, I'm sick. I'm recovering. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and I know this is long, but like I think a lot of people would find it helpful and relatable. Well, it's good too, because even though I said I can't describe my topic in like a single word, but I think what you're saying is going to relate to it really well. Oh, we're only 10 minutes in. That's nothing. After I edit it, it'll be like 6 minutes. See? Yeah, anyway, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Last night was the first time that I really socialized in all week. Like I said, I went and played Corkle at a friend's house, and we ended up putting googly eyes on a bunch of vegetables that were on their counter.
Which I also loved very much.
Like, this happened within like 15 minutes of me walking in. I was like, I want googly eyes on that thing. And then we did a whole ass photo shoot, and it was so dumb. And we were all laughing, like giggling like children. It was like good for my inner child.
Yes. And that video you posted of like the potato or whatever with googly eyes, just like, surprise! Potato!
Yeah, I'll post. Good, that's good. We have some stuff to post to the Instagram this week.
That made me laugh a lot, I have to admit.
Lauren, where are you at?
So yeah, even being able to think about it, I guess what I'd say is maybe I would be having like feelings and reactions and things, but I'm at a point where I'm just kind of shutting it down and going on autopilot.
You never do that.
What? But I feel like I think of it and I'm just kind of like, oh, the week wasn't that bad. I mean, some kind of crappy things happen, but nothing I can't handle. And some things made me feel kind of rotten and some things were fun. But I'm just meh.
Yeah. I mean, you had a really stressful time at work the week prior to this, which you talked about last week. And so I can imagine your response after that is to just kind of go numb.
Yeah. And I've been dealing with my stupid apartment.
Yeah, you haven't talked about that in a while. You also didn't talk about playing with your band a couple weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, I guess because I've talked about other people with that so much. And
people want to know what's going on in your life, Lauren.
Okay, that's not related to like where I'm at this week. But I will say that I was riding like a huge high because it was incredible. It was so much better than I ever could have predicted. And I will say, like that day, I mean, maybe especially because it was a Friday and it was a late show. We weren't even going to go on stage until 9, I think. And so, that whole day is just kind of like, oh, God, I wish this could all just be over. Do I even want to do this?
I'm the same way, even with things I enjoy.
Exactly. And I knew I would enjoy it. I mean, or at least I was like 99% sure I would, because I always have before. But I've never performed with them. So, I mean, it could have been a disaster, but it was the complete opposite.
Yay!
It was so good. And there was people like, I've never experienced this before. I mean, with my old band, I've had shows where people are reacting. Sometimes people are kind of like moving and dancing and people seem excited about it. Sometimes people seem to not care.
That's normal.
But this time there was a group of people that were always dancing up front. And I would say there were maybe 3 or 4 females that I noticed. And I mean, just because this is super weird to me because...
Oh, sorry. I hate it when people call women females.
Sorry. But...
No, it's okay. It's okay. You're Gen X.
Would you prefer it if I said 3 to 4 people that most likely had vaginas?
Yeah, actually.
Okay, then that's what it was. 3 people that probably had vaginas.
Oh, God. I hate myself.
But I feel like, especially like, unfortunately, it's a thing. It's girls with other girls. We kind of get default catty a lot of the times. And so,
yeah,
I feel like I've been at shows where you kind of get that feeling where it's like a girl can be watching you and be like, yeah, I like the music and stuff. But you feel like she's kind of looking at you like, yeah, I could do that if I wanted to, though.
Oh, I mean, I've never performed. I've never experienced this. I didn't know it was a thing.
Yeah, but...
I hope I don't look like that at shows. I'm just like admiring her outfit or like trying to see what...
Then you're probably more like this group because... Or at least closer to them, because what I felt like is... Like, imagine going to, an artist that you have loved for like years and years and they're big and you're just like, I got front row. And, and when you're like there and you're watching and you get the feeling of like, oh my God, they made eye contact with me. That's amazing. That's what this felt like every time I would like catch their eye or something like that they were like seeing their idol perform. And I was just like, this is the most incredible feeling I've ever experienced.
Oh my God. I also, sorry, ADHD. I just had an idea.
Mm-hmm.
We should do a episode about music and mental health, and we should have like another performer on.
Yes.
That you can geek out about that stuff with.
Okay.
Well, because I used to go to a ton of live shows back in the day, and with my anxiety and other stuff I haven't lately, COVID. But
those things that happened.
Exactly. Live shows haven't been the same in 4 years, and it makes me sad, but also I have other stuff now. But yeah, that's so awesome. We'll post a picture of that too. A current one. We posted an old one, but now we have more.
Yeah, and even because like Vicky came to the show, and she texted me later. She's like, I overheard some people talking, and they were saying things like, I don't know why they were the late band. They're so much better.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I'm so proud. I want to see y'all someday.
Yes.
Okay, but back to your feelings.
But yeah, for the rest of it is just like the last week or so has just felt like, sometimes maybe some things would have made me like spiral downward, or maybe some things would have like brought me back up, but it just kind of feels like I'm pushing it all aside and ignoring it. I don't know if that's like because of, like the work situation I'm in, and because of the apartment situation being not great, if I feel like I'm in a mode where I have to just be like, just get through it. And if you need to fall apart or whatever, you can do that later, or what?
Would you say it's avoidance or compartmentalization or something, a secret third thing?
That's a good question. I think compartmentalization is actually a probably good word for it.
Which is a coping mechanism.
Right.
I mean,
because that's what it feels like more. It doesn't feel like I'm just trying to be like, no, everything's fine. There's nothing bad happening. It just feels like I got to do what I got to do right now. There will be time later. Breather. Yeah.
You're just surviving.
Yeah.
As one does, ?
Right.
Speaking of question mark.
Yes. Good segue.
Thank you.
So, what I wanted to talk about this time, and let's hope that I can do it justice, because what it's based on is funny. I already dropped Vicky's name because it's based on a conversation her and I had.
Oh, awesome.
And so, yeah, I can't boil it down to, like a word or a phrase or anything like that. But what we talked about is both of us having been through a lot of mental health treatment and a lot of, being in groups, whether they're formal groups or whether they're ones like you and I met on, or, like Vicky and I met in Live Journal, and they had mental health communities and things like that. Like whatever that is, it feels like we've been able to do a lot of just kind of like looking internally and soul searching, or whatever you want to call it.
Introspection.
Yes. And we just kind of talked about like, is that good or is it bad? Because we felt like on the one hand, it seems like it's good. And especially like when you're going through all of this like treatment type stuff, they're telling you that it's good. But we're just kind of like, sometimes it almost feels like you hit a point where it's maybe too much. And like, do you just need to try and live life instead of being like, all I'm doing is focusing on how this is affecting my mental health and my problems and where they come from? So we didn't have an answer, but yeah, it was just kind of like we could see good and bad.
I'm already looking forward to people weighing in on this topic. Because I mean, I have so much to say right off the bat. You could say I'm the perfect guest to talk about this. Because I've experienced both. I think introspection is never a bad thing. I mean, never is a strong word. I have done more introspection than the average person, I would say, as have you.
Yes.
And that is partly because I have been in therapy since I was 17, on and off. I've been in treatment. I've been in lots of group therapies and all the things you mentioned. But I think just because of my personality and, my trauma, I tend to retreat into my head quite a bit as a coping mechanism, as a hobby, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So it just feels natural to me to be introspective. And when I started the podcast, I was kind of like throwing fuel on the fire. Like I finally had a platform where I could be introspective publicly. And I have had people over the years express concern that it's negative. I mean, This happens with, my Substack. This happens when I express an interest in, for instance, the helpline operator job.
Uh-huh.
When I tell people I'm involved in these mental health type things, a lot of people are concerned. They're like, are you sure that's a good idea? Like, I get the feeling they think I'm taking it too far. And I have asked myself on many occasions, am I taking this too far? Is this my entire identity? Am I just like, therapists always want to talk about family and your background.
Yes.
And lately, I've been wondering, like, have I talked about my childhood too much? Like, what's the point of just continuously mulling over this when I can't change anything? And yeah, like you said, maybe I'm just thinking about it too much and making it worse.
Mm-hmm.
But then I'll usually have like a weird revelation out of the blue. And
yeah,
I don't know. This is a very gray area, and I love this topic.
Yeah, I would say that I am the same way, particularly because, unlike you, I didn't really start in therapy regularly until, I was like almost 30. So it felt then, like having a lot of doors open to me did me a lot of good, being able to look at these things and having someone say, like, you are valid and you are seen and all of that stuff. But on the other hand, I think what I feel like is, in particular, the times where it starts to feel like my whole circle is, usually it'd be like a time like if I had recently like been to treatment and then my whole circle was still kind of like treatment people, and my therapist is maybe suggesting like support groups, and that feels like all I'm doing on my free time, and I'm just kind of like, this is all I'm surrounding myself with and all I'm talking about. And is that kind of keeping me stuck in this life 24/7?
Well, and sometimes it is. Sometimes that's what you need. It just depends on the person, and you're the only one that can tell, usually. I mean,
yeah. And
I don't know. Have you ever had anyone approach you about that or express concern that your whole life was...
I haven't really, but I think it's because it's something that I'm extra sensitive to. So I feel like as soon as I just get a hint, like, wow, that might be happening, then I immediately like swing the other way. But then again, like if I swing the other way, like that hard and just, totally pivot and like, okay, now I'm going to just kind of like disavow this entire side of myself because I don't want people to think that that's all I am. Then it usually comes back to like kick me in the butt because that's not the balance.
Well, yeah, that's the word that kept coming to mind while you were talking is balance. Like you got to diversify your interests, I guess, and your energy. Like I'm writing a memoir and there's a lot of parts of my childhood I need to remember, but I can't. And I just obsess over all these details I can't remember, and I just get consumed by it, thinking about my childhood and reading old journals. Like last week I talked about discovering some old journals, and I was like buried in them for 2 days straight. And the way that I can tell when I'm starting to be a little too much in my head is when I, like I said, ignore other things, like ignore basic self-care, like eating and sleeping and showering, whatever. Sometimes I'll get headaches, like literal headaches.
Yeah, no, me too.
You too?
I've experienced that, yes.
Yeah. And when I find myself just like being in a thought spiral where it's like the same circular thoughts over and over again, I need like a shock to my system. So actually showering can sometimes help. Like going outside, especially if the weather's cold, it's like a literal shock. Oh my God, I'm so happy that cold weather is coming.
I know.
I forget where I was going with that.
I don't know, but yeah, talking about like not remembering childhood things, you reminded me like something that I feel like I get really fixated on a lot is I will have childhood memories, but because they're so long ago and they get kind of fuzzy that I start to like question myself, and I'm just trying really hard. I'm like, what if that didn't actually happen? Or what if it didn't happen like I think?
You're gaslighting yourself.
Well, and I mean, because my parents have done it. So, I mean, that makes sense because I know for a fact that I have brought things up to my parents that I remember and be like, like we're talking about, it can be something way in the past. So I'm not like super upset about it, but I just kind of want them to admit, I'm like, you did this thing and that kind of was not cool. And my mom will just be like, that's not how it happened. It did.
Oof. And like the other side of the coin is when you, speaking of avoidance, you are afraid to address that side of you, which I mean, you'd think we wouldn't struggle with that because we have a mental health podcast, but we do. I had a really great idea for my memoir the other day, and part of it involves writing about my 8-year-old self and some stuff that happened. And I immediately knew I had to write about it because it makes me so uncomfortable. And like, that's the kind of thing I don't want it to be part of my identity so bad that I'll go out of my way to like avoid it, avoid talking about it, avoid thinking about it at all. And if I do, then I'll usually react badly. Like I'll go on a bender or something. And you don't want that either. It's about balance.
I don't know how this story, I know it related to something you said, and I forgot how, but it related to what I was just saying. That one thing that just comes up time and time again, and I'm sure I've mentioned it on the podcast before, but I think not in a really long time, is some of the comments that my mom made about my body when I was growing up. When I was, I don't know, 12, 13, 14, then she started worrying about my weight, and she made me weigh myself, and she made me tell her. And
oh my God,
she didn't want to let me. I remember once, all I wanted to do, because I was already concerned about this stuff myself. So I was already at a point where I'm like, I will only weigh myself completely naked. And so when she wants to know my weight, then, I know like I can't stand on it in clothes because I don't do that. So just like, can I do it myself and tell you? And she's like practically insisting, like, no, just do it in front of me. Why don't you let me be there?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Dude, you just cracked open some steaming trauma.
Yeah. But that's the thing is like, that's why like that one just like tears me up, because I am almost completely certain that if I brought that up to her and said, like that was a really shitty thing to do, then she would be like, that didn't happen.
Oh yeah, the gaslighting.
And I'm just like, well, how would I even make that up?
Yeah.
Like, how would I make up the fact that my mom told me that I should weigh under a certain weight, or she tries to stay under a certain weight because it means that you are too small to give blood?
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
I'm like, that's a really specific, odd thing. That's not your parents saying, like, I think that you should lose weight. I'm like, I couldn't have made that up.
Yeah. I've had that goal before.
Yeah. Well, obviously I have, because I was told it when I was like 13.
This is going into triggering territory.
I know.
But well, I wanted to talk about eating disorders because I think that's a really good example of this thing you're talking about. Because like you said, in treatment, they want you to talk about this all the time. You're always talking about food and weight and all this stuff that you think about 24/7 anyway, but they're encouraging it.
Yeah. And in particular, a lot of times you're not talking about food and weight because they're trying to talk about where it came from. So you're talking, about your history and your experiences. And you're talking about this all day.
And for some people, like, odds are if you are in treatment, then you need that. Because like, I was avoiding a lot of stuff before I went to treatment in 2021. I mean, it took being in treatment, sorry, I'm thinking I'm about to contradict myself, but I feel like being in treatment and being allowed to talk about it and encouraged to talk about it all the time, when I had free time, I almost like wanted to think about anything else.
Oh, yeah.
Like, that's when I was finally able to do some deep introspection into other areas of my life, like my career and where I lived and like my sexual orientation. And I came to a few really big realizations. And I think there's something to be said about talking about this stuff as opposed to just mulling over it in your head all the time. Like, you got to let it out.
Yeah, that's
and
where,
then you can let it go. Let it out so you can let it go.
That's where, I mean, I guess that's going to be, just like the word of this episode is balance. That's kind of like what I'm gathering the more we talk, is it's like, you got to find the right balance.
Have you seen that meme that's like, if you want to sound smart in any conference call, just say, it's all about that balance.
I haven't, but I have expressed my hatred for work jargon.
I hate it too. I'm so glad I don't have to do it anymore.
Anytime that I see the word circle back, I immediately just want to like chop a computer in half.
How would you do that? Anyway,
no. I feel like the hatred of that phrase would give me so much adrenaline that I could do it with like a fork.
Maybe I should say that to you one of the days where you really don't want to talk about your feelings.
I'll just like shove everything off of my desk and it'll be silent. I'll be like, where'd she go?
Next time you start going on a really long tangent, I'll be like, Lauren,
could you
let's circle back to your feelings. But yeah, it is all about balance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know, I think everything should be processed, but there's such thing as over-processing.
Yeah.
I mean, what does that look like for you? I kind of talked about how I can tell when I'm starting to like over-process something. It's like pulling an all-nighter in college. I never did that because there's a certain point where it was just useless, and I knew it was useless.
Same,
and I would let myself sleep.
And I would always have the plans too, because I would think like, this is
same.
Yeah, I think just like, this is how you got to do it. You just got to keep going until you've got it.
Everyone does it.
But yeah, it was the same way. I'd hit the point where it's just like, this is not actually going to do me any good.
And yeah, if we apply that same thing to our mental health, that actually is kind of helpful to think of it that way. Like, if I feel like I'm pulling a mental all-nighter.
Ooh, I like that. A mental all-nighter.
Yeah. I should, just be like, okay, it's time to rest. It's time to go rollerblade or play piano or, I don't know, watch YouTube videos. I've been really into YouTube lately. That's probably why I wanted to try video last week.
Okay.
Not me, like discovering YouTube at 32.
Hell, I'm the same way. I can't think of a good example right now, but there has been some things that I'm just kind of like, way to go, Lauren's entering 2010 today.
Oh, I miss 2010. 2010
was all right. 2009 was better for me.
2010 was my first hospitalization and the year I graduated high school. And yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been reading my journals and I do a lot of circular type thinking in that journal.
Yeah. And I agreed with you too, that like when you were talking about that, I was like, yeah, I think that's one of my ways too. Cause I know I've been, it usually sneaks up on me because it's usually just, who knows? I'm just planning to do a little task around the apartment and like, oh, what's this? Oh, hey, it's my treatment journal. And I just, next thing I know, I've lost 6 hours.
Yeah. I mean, it's fascinating. And we're both writers too.
Yeah.
And like documenting our lives is really important to us. And so that makes sense. But yeah, I think anyone who's listening, like the internet's been around long enough where you've probably looked up stuff you've posted forever ago.
Yeah.
Or like your Facebook memories.
I was just going to say another one I know maybe like a year or so ago there was a way to, and this was actually good because I know that I recognized what I was doing and stopped myself before it went too far. There was a way to import all of your entire live journal.
Did you do it?
Yeah. And I started mine in 2001.
Oh my God, I'm so jealous. I found this thing called the Internet Archive. And you can type in an address and it gives you like screenshots from every date that it was captured. You can go, I was looking at
heard of that, but I'd forgotten about it. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's really cool.
I might lose a few more days.
But the thing is, they don't really always import the images. So I looked up my own websites I used to make, and the designs are almost all like invisible because none of the images loaded. My old layouts were very image heavy.
Yeah, my GeoCities page probably.
Oh my God, yes, free webs. Homeschool blogger.
Wow.
There's probably one person listening who knows what that is. This is kind of like tangentially related.
That's good. I had a tangent too, so after you.
I can't remember now. Fuck. What was your tangent?
Just what I was thinking when we were talking about, like, are you getting out of balance, basically? Then I was just like, it's interesting, or about being free to talk about these things. I think that was it. Yes.
Let's go back to that.
Yeah, because what I was thinking is how interesting it is that I feel like, because I see other people that I do feel like, they kind of get immersed in this and sort of like seem to make it their whole life. But at the same time, these are mostly probably people that I'm only seeing their social media life. So, that might not be the whole thing. But I was just thinking how I feel like a lot of times my reaction to that is dual. It's like half of me is, kind of critical. That's just kind of like, you got to actually like go out and do things, and you got to live life occasionally, and you can't just, like make this your entire life 24/7. But on the other side, I feel like I find myself sometimes envious because I'm just like, I could talk so openly about that to people.
Well, you do now. I mean,
I
you
do
might not think
here,
you
but there's a lot
do.
of other places that I don't. I mean, as you know, like I don't let my family know. I don't let any coworkers know. I careful which friends I let know. Like,
Well, that kind of ties into one thing I wanted to talk about, which is like when you keep something a secret, and eating disorders, for instance, are very secretive. They're very internal, like by nature. Because, if we're going to do this thing that I hate and personify the eating disorder, it doesn't want people to find out.
yeah,
It wants to stay in secret. And I think if you're only open with like one group of people, for instance, I think that's a step in the right direction, and it can give you the catharsis you need to let go, but it has its limits. And I also don't think it's a good idea to share everything to everyone all the time.
right.
Like, just because I'm closer to that than you are, I have my limits too. I have balance.
But I do. Like, I think it
Nah.
does make me feel better basically being here and having a place where I know that I can just be honest about anything, all the bullshit if I want to. And also I think it is hard that assuming you are living a quote unquote full life, there's going to be people in your life that don't understand mental illness in general or don't understand certain mental illness. And I feel like
Yeah.
that's something that's a reason why I keep a lot of things inside with people that might even know, like I think I've talked about sometimes I have friends in this area that, yes, I admitted to them when I had to go to treatment. So like they do know that it is a thing that I deal with, but I am aware that it's just something that, they have no knowledge of. And they were totally supportive of me when I went, but they just don't understand it. So I try,
Mm.
Basically, I feel like I only say anything to them if it's like a total crisis, because then it's
Yeah,
unavoidable
same.
and I know they will understand and be supportive. So I can tell them I'm in crisis. But if I'm just below crisis, then it's just like, yeah, they're not going to get like, I'm kind of okay, but today was pretty hard or this weekend was. So I just avoid that.
Well, and here's the thing. Even when I've been in recovery, I've still obsessed over food and weight, and it was out of my control. That's what I was going to
Yeah.
say. I feel like we might have been a little ableist in the beginning by saying that, like, assuming we can control how much we think about these. I don't know if you did. I
don't know, but what you're saying right now is definitely true. So keep going.
Yeah, like different mental illnesses. I'm trying to think of a mental illness that makes you like seize onto a thought and not let go.
Yeah, I feel like we've talked a lot about eating disorders, but I was thinking of other ones that I have experienced where I'm just like, maybe more people might understand depression because it is a very common thing, but there still are people that don't. And I feel like, yeah, I react the same way where it's just kind of like I would be if I was just having kind of like a okay, meh sort of day where I know I'm like, yeah, it's sort of in the back of my mind and this could come raging forward at any moment. But because I'm not, shut up in the dark in my house, refusing to leave for 5 days or eat or shower or anything, then I won't talk about it to these people because they don't get it.
Yeah, they don't get it, and it gets stronger and more. You could become more obsessive when you don't talk about it. And yeah, depression is so debilitating for that reason. Like, speaking of Vicky again, I really want to have Vicky come on and talk about disability because I'm applying for disability, and this week has been really rough. It's not that I got bad news, but I've been really struggling financially, and there's just been so much red tape that I have to cross, and it's been really discouraging. And I find myself spiraling like I am my disability. Like, after struggling at work, like it's a really chill, easy job. I was telling myself, like, you shouldn't have to struggle so much just stocking groceries and ringing people up. You're struggling so hard because you're disabled beyond repair, and this is your identity, and it's always going to be this way, and your life is just always going to be hard. And, oh, but do other people see me that way? and then I start thinking about all the ways that I am or am not disabled and mentally.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what led to me isolating for a week.
Yeah. So there you go. There's what happens.
Yeah. So that's the obvious bad side of all this.
Yeah. I was wondering when you're talking about that, just, and maybe you'll be like, Lauren, why would I think like this? But just because I was thinking how I would think in your position, like, are there times where you start to feel like, I don't know, maybe I just am like too disabled to work like a full-time job because I keep telling myself that and Yes.
Okay, that's the thing. Like, I think that can be a result of obsessing over this stuff, of being in your head too much, quote unquote, is that you do start doing that. It's like, am I this way because I think about it all the time? Or do I think about it all the time because I'm this way?
Yeah. Or, like if I told myself, I'm only this way because my brain keeps telling me this. But in reality, if you went out and tried to do the opposite and said, no, I'm just going to live like I did before, then you would just crash and burn like you did before.
Yeah, I tried to do that too. And that's where the balance comes in. Because, I mean, much like live music, which I can't really enjoy anymore, working full time, I might not be able to do it anymore, at least right now for sure. And when I gaslight myself and I say, you're just doing this for attention, you're lazy, you just don't want to work, like, I think that goes beyond being critical in a healthy way. Like, I don't know.
Sorry.
I think you should always be a little critical of yourself.
Yes, but that is one of my like least favorite things, I feel like, is people trying to just any excuse to be like, you just don't want to work. And I feel like that is rarely the case in people that I've seen that are not working.
I really love working like on things I mean, I don't love working, but
right.
I like being busy and I like being on my feet and I like reacting to situations on the fly. Like, that's where I thrive. And I love my coworkers, like when I have a good crew.
Yeah. I like when I feel like I've accomplished something. Like if I've done something
like making money.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
Money's nice. Sure would like to be making more money right now.
Helps with a lot of things. Weird how that happens. I mean, we've talked about that fairly recently, that people say money can't buy happiness. I'm like, well, it can to a point.
It can to a point. Speaking of which, I have some housekeeping at the end, but I don't want to like interrupt this flow either.
Yeah, I don't know what I had to say next, but I'm willing to keep going.
I'm going to take a sip of water and hope I find my thoughts.
Okay. I'm going to take a hit of vape and see what I come up with.
Ugh, I bought a new vape. I'm so embarrassed to admit it.
Did you like completely stop for a while?
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
it's not.
I feel like a terrible friend saying this, but I never really like expect that you have. Unless you actually like announce like I haven't.
Well, I never expect myself to stick to it, and maybe that's my problem. I mean, I was gonna say with addiction, this topic is also applicable because, like, when I've quit alcohol, for instance, in the past, I found, and this is also the reason I don't like AA, I found that when I do make it my identity, like when I make not drinking my identity and when I think about not drinking all the time, it kind of just, it isn't healthy for me. And I think certain recovery groups like do
say more.
Emphasize
Why do you feel like that's not healthy to make that your thing? I'm just curious.
Well, we've talked about how like the antidote to a lot of this stuff is just filling your life with other things. It's not like you might feel like you can't make a dent in your drinking right now, or like you can't possibly eat more, but maybe there's something else you really want to get into, like cooking. Like I cooked for friends today, and as I was cooking, I was like, man, this looks good. I'm going to eat some. And it wasn't a big deal. And like, I wasn't really thinking about it. I was thinking about cooking for my friends, and I was enjoying the feeling of being productive and like shelling chickpeas, like something really tedious like that.
Yep.
I don't know. Physical things like that are good for getting out of your head.
I like that a lot because I feel like that's saying, like, instead of focusing on, like, I have to not be this and I have to not do this, it's just like, maybe if I just add something in my life, I'll find out there's not as much room for that.
Or just start doing something. Like, I hate to admit this, but I think, well, no, it's actually refreshing. Recovery is kind of going through the motions at first.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I agree.
Like, I never feel like it. And if I wait for me to feel like it, I feel like it's never going to happen. And that's where I'm at now. I think I keep waiting to want to recover, and I just won't because of my mental illness and because of a lot of other factors.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm about to go on a new psych med. And if I don't eat on the psych med or if I purge, then I could have seizures.
Right.
And so I'm kind of in this position where, like, okay, I hate to do this, but like I have to change something. And it'll be easier if I distract myself with other things rather than think all the time about, I need to eat, I need to eat, I need to eat. Like, it's easier for me to roller skate when I eat. So I'm like, okay, I got to get through this so I can roller skate.
Yeah, I had a friend a long time ago that went on that same med, and she was just kind of starting her recovery journey. She had been pretty bad anorexic for a while. And
I mean, we should just say what it is. I don't care. It's Wellbutrin.
I wasn't sure if you didn't want to. That's why I said, okay, yeah, but yeah.
Yeah. Some people might find this helpful.
I've been on it for a long time at different points too.
But back to your friend's story.
But yeah, but something that I felt like was really interesting to me is because it is one that comes with, a warning or whatever that says like may cause loss of appetite. And that's, sad to say, that's why a lot of people with eating disorders sometimes kind of want that and are like, I want that for my antidepressant. But she got it and she said she was just like, it actually was a godsend because what it did is it shut up the noise. All I had been doing is concentrating on food and when I'm eating so much, and that led to me not doing so because I would just overthink it until it was like too late to do anything. And she's just like, that kind of took that out of the equation and actually made it easier.
Yeah. Well, and it's also used to treat ADHD. I don't know if she had that, but for me personally, like that's one thing I'm hoping it does is just quiet the noise because ADHD makes it really hard not to ruminate on this stuff.
I mean, not to discourage you, but I was told the same thing when I got put on it because, I hadn't been formally diagnosed, but I was like, there's a lot of things going on that everyone's pretty certain. But unfortunately, I did not feel any effects as far as that.
Everyone's different.
Yeah, everyone is different. I don't know that I've felt effects on almost any psych med I've been on.
Well, yeah, you have treatment-resistant depression.
Right.
It's literally a thing. I don't know if you've, said it on the podcast in those words, but I
think I did once, because I think you were like, oh, that's interesting.
We should do an episode about that.
Yeah, that would be a good one.
If anyone else has treatment-resistant depression,
and wants
TRD,
to talk about it, we'll talk about it with you.
Yeah, or if you're a performing musician.
Mm-hmm.
Christopher could talk about that.
I wondered that.
I have a voicemail from Christopher.
Oh, cool.
I was going to play it during the housekeeping segment. I mean, my brain right now is like, what are our concluding points?
I know. How are we going to wrap it up in a nice positive though?
Literally. But yeah, this is something I constantly have to check myself for. Like, am I thinking about this too much? And do I need a break? How did we say it earlier? That was so helpful. A mental sick day.
Oh, yeah. Did you say? You said something great, and I've already forgotten.
I don't remember.
But yeah, I do. I think I was thinking I think the point is that there isn't an answer. I mean, we can't say this is focusing on all of that too much. This is avoiding the problem. It's just you got to find what's right for you and what is working for you and allowing you to live as fulfilling of a life as you can.
Exactly. If it feels like you're thinking about something, if you have to ask that question, you're probably thinking about it too much.
Yeah. If you're getting lost in these things for days at a time and neglecting your basic body needs, probably. You should maybe look
honestly, yeah, if you're neglecting anything else, honestly, or if you notice that you never do new things anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. I crave novelty in my life. Maybe it's ADHD, maybe it's my personality, but mental illness really makes that difficult.
Yeah.
Although I try to find novelty through my mental illness sometimes, which is, kind of what we talked about.
Right.
making it your identity. And I don't know. I mean, it is pretty exciting sometimes.
Yeah, I feel like we did a pretty good job talking about a topic that I was able to condense down into like 40 words.
What should the pickle poll be for this?
We'll
think about it.
Yeah.
But basically, if you had thoughts on this, get ready to share them with us.
Yeah, I feel like it should be basically something about like, do you feel like you make this too much of your life or not enough?
Yeah.
But a better way of wording it. We'll come up with it.
Yeah. Housekeeping. We are interviewing a guest in like 4 days or something like that.
Good God, Meatball.
Oh, I thought you were saying, good God, we're interviewing a guest.
We gotta interview a fucking guest. No.
We gotta interview someone on Tuesday.
No, I've just got a chair that, because I don't know if I want to fully move in or not, so it still has like the plastic wrapped around it, and he managed to crawl inside of it.
Oh, yeah, I can hear it.
So yeah, that's him.
That happened to me when I did my tattoo. I put a plastic shower curtain on the floor, and Fang was like burrowing under it, like while I was tattooing my leg.
Yeah, Meatball's stuck in a chair. Okay, let's go.
We can listen to the voicemail.
Okay.
Okay, so this was sent by Christopher Robin.
I just got around to listening to this couple of shows ago, you guys, and I don't know whether or not I should send this here or to the Pickles and Vodka account. Doesn't matter to me. I just grabbed this one because I think
He said it's my personal
anyway,
account.
This hurried child syndrome thing is fascinating because my kids are 11 and 8, and I just taught him to ride a bike over the weekend. And it's a thing. It's a real thing to like get your kids to do that. But I didn't force either one of them. Like I had to wait till they were ready. I could talk about this shit all day long. It's neat.
Neat.
Because what you said about not choosing your own extracurricular activities as a kid and all that shit, it's the way we were parented. And it's because it's the way they were parented. We weren't allowed to make choices. Like my mom was telling me the other day, like she wasn't allowed to even go to college.
Shit.
Like women didn't go to college then. They were expected to like get married and have babies. Like that was how her dad looked at the world. So she didn't have any choices. How the fuck would she learn how to make them? And I was the same way. I was like kind of forced into being a musician as a kid. And then my dad said something to me a few years ago that I'll never forget. We were at my daughter's soccer game. She was like 5. She was just starting soccer. And he's sitting there and he's like, man, I wish my parents would have let me try baseball. And he never got to play baseball because of it.
Wow.
I know. We wrapped up this conversation about hurried child syndrome last week, but I wanted to share because we have the privilege of being a little podcast right now. Like where it's not like I probably shouldn't say this. We're not like overwhelmed with messages. And so I love playing the ones we get on the podcast.
I was 5 years old when I learned to ride a bike.
I don't remember how old I was.
But also, I think that was a product of my growing up. I mean, my brother taught me how to ride a bike, and that's probably why I probably wanted to learn, and that's probably why, because he would have been 11, and he would have been riding all over, and I'm like, wow, I want to be able to get around like that.
I love riding a bike. To tie this into the topic,
Mm-hmm.
when I'm riding a bike or a motorcycle, like I can't really be in my head.
Yeah, you talked about like just your bike riding a few weeks ago. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about just like going and doing something, like being physically busy. If like sometimes that's what it takes. Oh my God. Alexa, power off. It's funny. That's like my cue to wrap things up because
she tells
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Well, she's like, Christina, it is 5 o'clock on Friday because in Seattle where I set it up,
right,
it is 5 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock now for me. But yeah, thanks for sending that in, Chris. We also got a lovely, hilarious message from Jess where she said she listened to last week's episode where Pico was like,
oh my God, I was just about to bring that up before and I forgot.
Should I just play that too?
Why not? Because that was hilarious.
Why not?
Hey, Christina and Lauren, this is Jess. I just finished listening to this week's episode. I've really been kind of checked out lately from support group and from the pickle poll, so I apologize. But I wanted to say a couple things. One, I thought it was Christina that was gagging in the background while Lauren was talking about blowing out her birthday candles and like asking God for something to go to heaven, I think it was. And I genuinely thought it was Christina gagging and not Pico. I hope Pico's okay.
I'll stop it there. Yeah. But like, that's hilarious.
I know.
And also I'm embarrassed because we had Pico coughing. It's not something we can control.
No.
We try to cut it out when we can, but sometimes you're talking and you're saying something really good, and I'm like, I don't want to cut this.
And I actually hadn't had time to listen to that episode yet, so you shared that voice message with me, and I think the next day I listened to the episode, and I laughed so hard when I heard that, because I was like, what if that had been Christina? Just like,
I know. I'm kind of whatever the opposite of flattered is. Appalled. That someone would think I sound like that. I sound worse, actually. We should wrap up. But yeah, look out for our next pickle poll. We welcome voicemails and messages at any time. We will share them on the podcast. If you don't want us to, let us know.
Or if you just don't want your name said, we can do that too.
Yeah. And we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
If you like what you heard, don't forget to tell a friend about our podcast. You can direct them to picklesandvodka.substack.com, where they can find our entire archive and also get access to our chat. We're on Instagram at Pickles and Vodka Podcast, Facebook.com/Pickles and Vodka Podcast, and YouTube.com/@Pickles and Vodka Podcast. My Instagram is @XtinaJumper, and Lauren is @LaurenAFH. We'll see you next week.